Hey friends, welcome to the Stationery Cafe After Dark. This is our special episode for our Patreon members where we talk with interesting guests that have been on the show or have not appeared on the show. And today you have me, April from Penguins Creative, Kelly from Kelly Love Letters, and our special guest, Joe from The Gentleman Stationer. Hey, Joe.
Hey.
Yay. So thank you for coming on to the show. Kelly and I were super excited. We met you actually in person last year during the San Francisco Pen Show. And you're such an interesting person because you run this huge stationery review blog. And it's funny how the stationery world can have like this like fountain pen, like vintage pen and like paper stationery section, and then our like kind of kawaii one, but like still has that little overlap because of our mutual love for like inks and like paper. So I just thought it'd be really cool to introduce you to our listeners who, to have this resource to look for more in-depth reviews as they get into the fountain pen and the ink and the more like high-end stationery world. So starting off, what are you drinking today for After Dark?
Well, I am drinking water because it's been a long day, and if I have anything stronger, I'm going to fall asleep. But I do have the remnants of a glass of fine Costco wine that I enjoyed with my dinner, so
Nice.
I may have the last few sips of that during the course of our conversation.
Nice.
And thank you for having me on, by the way. I'm flattered.
And Kelly, what are you drinking?
Well, I had my cauldron mug today. That's always seasonal. But I just had some English breakfast tea.
Nice. I'm having a little drink
myself.
Non-alcoholic, but plum related. I kind of did a little mocktail of plum juice and some cider in here, so I'm just kind of getting to the end of it.
Nice.
Yeah, to start off this episode, of course, we gotta get some backstory. Actually, Joe, would you mind like kind of introducing yourself briefly, who you are, where you are at now, and
Sure.
what do you do? Yeah.
Sure. My name's Joe. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, originally. I'm an attorney by my day job, and I run the blog, The Gentleman Stationer, as a hobby. I've been doing that since, I want to say 2014 was when I started it.
Oh.
And I've been in the kind of the pen community just as a member and as a participant since 2010. I think I started going to shows and meeting people in person in, I think, around 2012. And then kind of just decided I wanted to start a website because I needed a hobby. I felt like I was working too much. So I decided I wanted to do something else with my time on the side, much to my family's chagrin. And so I started this website, and it's kind of grew from there. It's been a lot of fun, just kind of over the years. I always thought that I would get it to a point where it would eventually stop growing just because I'd run out of stuff to talk about. And one of the things that was so amazing about this is it just keeps coming. And, even now, I want to say almost like 8 years in, it's going to be 8 years in April.
Wow.
It's still so crazy that there's new stuff coming out every month.
The frequency too, right?
And just different, and also like you were saying earlier, just different aspects of the stationery world to explore. So you get bored with one thing, and you can just pivot to something related but completely different, and then just go down a completely new rabbit hole, and then 2 years later, get sick of that and find something else. So, I mean, I've just been kind of doing that, and moving back and forth between groups, between different types of stationery that I really get into. And that's kind of how TGS has grown. Now we've got, we started out as a fountain pen and ink review blog. We kind of moved on to, we still do some fountain pen and ink reviews. We've started doing a lot more paper stationery and things like planners and notebook systems. And that's the kind of stuff that I've really been finding particularly interesting lately. mainly just because of, work and in life. And, I'm trying to get back into writing and journaling, and that type of stuff has really helped me. But I originally got what originally, my original origin story is what got me into this is when I was in college. I lived in France for a year, and this was, going on 20 years ago, but it was back when, you really still didn't have computers in the classroom over there, and everybody was still taking notes by hand with a fountain pen and on Clairefontaine French rolled paper. So, I fell down that rabbit hole, brought a suitcase full of all that stuff back with me.
Oh yeah.
When
I know what that's about.
From school, and whenever, when that supply ran out, I would go back on vacation and bring back, started bringing back like multiple suitcases full stuff, where I always had a stash, and I'd sell it to people at law school and college, and and had kind of a side racket going.
You're like a dealer.
You're the paper dealer. I love that. How many reams do you need?
Well, now I can because I've got my little web shop attached to Gentleman Stationery. I can get it all wholesale. So I can, I've got an unlimited supply. I had them send me a pallet from France, which showed up at our house.
You're making it legit now, basically.
That's amazing.
People love that paper though. And that was I was shocked at how quickly it sold out and how much people love that paper. That's like a sleeper thing that people don't realize. That's a great class, the French ruled paper, and especially the loose leaf paper, which comes in these booklets. They're almost like test booklets that they used to write exams in, and you can get these. That I use them for outlining arguments and oral arguments and stuff for work, but you can buy those if you import them. That's my favorite piece of stationery of all time.
Really?
I love that you carried it.
The French rolled paper
all the way back when you went to France to now today. Oh, yeah. It's just like a constant thing for you in your stationery inventory. Love that. Wow. I love that you said that you started the Gentleman Stationery because work and stuff. I mean, Kelly and I are kind of in our 30s now, so we're a little bit I guess a few years younger than you. So we also, I'm no wonder I started getting into stationery because work is hard. love the distraction of having really diving into stationery. I think my real venture or really doing this a lot is also around 2015, maybe 2015, when I came to the US. I was just I need to have people to talk about stationery with me, and so I reached out and started looking for people. Kelly, how long has it been for you? Is it also 8 years ish? Or
I would say since I've been been going this hard. I would say about 2014-ish, like you said.
Around the same. I think, and isn't it amazing now, the range of things you review, it's so much more accessible now, the Japanese stuff, the fact that they kind of opened up to the international market, from the drill log to the different kinds of bags and different kinds of paper material. And I just love how kind of in the beginning, the 2014, it could be just specific rabbit holes, but now it's just the rabbit holes are so close to each other. It's just it's never one thing. It's like you said, you could easily fall into the other one.
Well, it used to be when I kind of came into it through the fountain pen group, and it was it was various I bounced around through different podcasts I was listening to. I mean, there was the FP Fountain Pen Geeks, which was a website and podcast that ran for about a year around in 2012, 2013, and then discovered the Pen Addict. And the fountain pens was one whole universe. And that was divided into, people who are interested in modern pens or Japanese pens and vintage pens. And there was this hard dividing line, and there was no crossing over between them. And people were into, modern pens and inks, a lot of antiques and collectibles. Then there was the pencil group, and that was a whole completely separate group of people.
The pencil group.
The pencil group. And the pencil people.
Yes.
And then there were the field notes people, and that was another separate group that
Yes,
didn't
yeah.
the field
interact with
notes.
anybody. It was like the field notes people and the EDC everyday carry people.
Yes.
And it was all these different groups. And then
The Traveler's Notebook came much later, I remember. It was
Mhm.
kind of like much later, yeah.
It was around when the Traveler's Notebook started getting popular, I think, that all this kind of started to merge together. And it felt like there was a lot
Right.
more overlap between the groups. It was Traveler's Notebook and like Baron Fig, and then some of these companies that started making products that appealed to everybody. And it kind of brought all the different groups together a little bit. And now it's kind of one, it feels like there's a lot more overlap and interaction between the different communities. I mean, there's still groups of people with core interests, but it seems like there's a lot more, especially at the shows, there's a lot more diversity of interests and people.
When did you first start going to shows? Sorry, Kelly, I'm like skipping ahead of you and stealing your
That's
questions,
cool.
but
Right.
That's cool. Yeah.
I'm curious, like,
I was making notes trying to figure that out here. And I want to say the first show, so my daughter was born in 2013, and it was a year before that. I think I went to my first show because it was right around the time. I remember it was right around the time she was born. So I think it was 2012, like late 2012, when I went to my first pen show, and it was the Ohio Pen Show in Columbus. Which is a traditionally very kind of hardcore vintage collector show. And I was
but with their suitcase.
I mean, I want to say I would have been like 32, and I was one of like 5 people under the age of 45 there. And so it was a very
I've been that person in a group.
Yeah.
That's actually how we felt last time when we went to the San Francisco Pen Show. Like when there's a little group of us who are like into like more of the Japanese like washi tape sticker kind of type, and we're like, wow, we're just a bunch of like 30-year-old girls like in this like fountain pen room, and that kind of felt awkward to us. But then I feel like it's definitely trending younger these days, though. Like
it is.
Yeah.
Well, but I will agree with you with the like how there still is kind of a separation with the hardcore vintage people. Like sometimes at Joe, I don't know if you know Oblation Papers and Press, which is where I work. It's a stationery store in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, I think I saw you. I think I came and saw you guys at San Francisco. Did you guys have you guys had a table, didn't you?
No,
we actually didn't have a table. I was just hanging around.
It was just a rep walking around.
Yeah. I bought some vintage pens for the store, but in Portland we had this kind of crew of people that was like the PDX pen group, and we used to have meetups. It hasn't really been happening since COVID, but a lot of them, there was this one time where I went to a meetup and it was like me and like probably 8 old dudes. But it was really fun because they like got to share stories with me about like where all these pens come from, and I don't know, but some of them are like, no, I don't want to buy modern anything. It's like, no, but I feel like there's a mesh.
Is it the Passe group? Because we have one in Seattle too, the Seattle Passe Pen Club, and then San Francisco also had one, and they all are a little bit of a younger crowd there, but a mix between the young and the old. So then those are really fun.
Yeah.
We have a local pen group in Nashville, but it's almost all people on the younger side. It's not.
Nice.
Younger meaning, and in the pen world, younger means under 60. Like under everybody in the group is under 60.
I love that.
Nice. Yeah.
When was your first like physical pen meetup? Because you said you like were in these like little, I assume they're all online, and like the podcast Pen Addict was like visual, just listening to it. Like when was that moment when you like actually went to an in-person one, and like what was that like back then?
And felt like I was part of a community. I would say it was probably, what was it? So I went to my first show in 2012. Went to a couple shows after that. And I want to say either in 2014 or 2015, there was an Atlanta pen show in which the Pen Addict podcast hosted a physical meetup for, people coming in from all over.
I listened to that one. I was like, I listened.
Oh,
to
cute.
Yeah.
I would say that was the first pen meetup that really felt like it was a meetup of people who I knew, who I felt like I knew, and you could really feel a sense of community. And a lot of the people who I met there in person for the first time still remain close friends
That's
going on
cute.
7 years later.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same people that I plan my show trips around going to see.
Nice.
I mean, these days the pen shows, I mean, I don't really go to buy pens anymore. I mean, I've got, if I never bought another pen, I'd be happy with what I have.
That's a future
But I
question
just
about how many
Yeah.
pens.
I just go to, I plan the trips to see people and around
Nice.
and around hanging out and visiting with people and getting to meet retailers and brands and hear kind of what they're working on. But it's not, I think the pen show, one thing the pen show, and this may be something you want to talk about later, but one of the things that I do think the pen shows are migrating away from pure shopping experiences, and they're becoming more of I mean, I guess the best term is for it. It's like a con, like a pen con.
Yeah.
They're moving more. They're moving away from the whole kind of flea market atmosphere that they were for a long time.
Yeah.
And now it's moving more towards a community oriented event.
I know.
Well,
Like,
and
did
that's
you
what
feel
people, our friends were joking about that at the pen show. There wasn't it Leo that was like PenCon?
that?
I don't know. So someone said that.
That's interesting. So when you were working the booth at Vanessa, what kind of like experience was that? Because that was my first show. I've never been to a pen show. Okay, actually I lied. I went to the Commonwealth one in the East Coast one time, and it
Boston.
felt very flea market, and that was 2016. Like I was in and out in like 20 minutes.
And that's a one-day show. So I mean, then you're probably getting hit with people feel they go and they have one day to see everything and buy what they want to buy. So it's a big mad rush. I actually like working the shows behind the table. I've worked with Van Ness. I can't remember. I think I may have worked with the Nibsmith at one show, and it's a good way to have a place to stand or have a place to sit where you're kind of out of the mad rush of people.
Yeah.
And it gives you like a little home base to work from, but you get to talk to everybody. It's interesting to hear what people are looking for. And a lot of people just come up with questions like, I just bought this, or I found this, or this pen isn't working. Can you help me get it writing again? And it's always fun to hear how people came to the hobby, what they're looking for, a lot of times it's people's first show, and those are the most fun conversations.
I know, and it really is on to people like you who help people be less shy, I guess, because people go to pen show and if the person behind the booth are not engaging, like Kelly, you said you talk to the old vintage pen people and they're just
well,
and then,
well, sometimes they're like this, but then there was that one guy that kind of verbally attacked me. But he was doing that to everyone. He's like, hey, I see you looking at that. You gonna buy that or what? It's just okay, you're too aggressive for me.
Well, and that's why I go. I mean, I want to talk. I mean, I want to talk to people about what they're interested in, and what are people. I mean, that's what the blog is about. Just exploring what people are interested in, having it there as an informational resource for people to use. To answer their questions about this stuff, and also just to meet more like-minded people. I mean, that was the whole thing that I work in a very, I want to say, staid industry, which doesn't really have a lot of outlets for creativity. So this is my creative outlet that I can do all the things that I'd like to be doing during the day, but
your
never
identity
get the opportunity to do
by night. I love it.
So can I ask a question that kind of segues from that?
Sure.
How do you incorporate stationery and analog tools at your job? And you mentioned you're an attorney, and so what does that look like with all your tools?
Well, I use pens and notebooks and pencils. I mean, I'm a litigator, which means I do a lot of writing. I mean, a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, you must spend a lot of time in court. I hardly spend any time in court, just by the nature of the stuff that I do. I mean, most stuff these days, you might have a few hearings a year. I do a lot of corporate work, but most of the stuff is done via Zoom or conference calls with chambers and with the judge and the magistrates. But 90% of what you do is writing, and it's long form analytical writing, and 30-page, 90-page briefs where you're taking a lot of notes, doing a lot of research, interviewing people, and it's not unheard of that I can do 8 hours of writing and write through an entire piston filler fountain pen in a day. And
no way. Man,
notes.
that takes me forever.
Wow.
So I do. Wow. I use my tools all the time, and
well, that's good
on a daily basis. And I mean, it's a real thing for me. I mean, this is my. Let's see if I've got.
Yeah, which pen is your workhorse for those like 30-page?
Lamy 2000. Which is what I got. And this is my work. This is my work notebook, planner, agenda, which is
traveler's notebook.
It's like traveler's notebook that I've doctored up. But I use this stuff every day, and it's not just a it's not just a thing where I kind of have a hard time. The one aspect of the hobby, not to people should use this stuff for whatever they want to use it for. I mean, it's there to make people happy and to give you, to give you enjoyment. But the one thing that I guess I could say, like, I can't appreciate the angle of the hobby where people write, but don't write anything, or they're not journaling, they're not working, they're not trying to use these as tools. And that's the, just to have the things for the sake of having them. I mean, they're
the collecting type.
They're made to be used. They're made to be enjoyed. I try to, and if I have something and I'm not using it every day, I'm going to get rid of it and pass it on, because it means it's not something that's for me. And I'll get it in the hands of somebody who does want to use it. So that's kind of, I've always come at this from that angle. It's not about, accumulating or collecting or having stuff for the sake of having stuff, or fetishizing, pens and pencils and, brands. It's about, for me, helping me, do what I want to do and work and in my life,
totally,
in a way that I enjoy.
I love that. Yeah, I want to draw an analogy to what my husband described, because he's a car person and he buys this very expensive car, but he looks down on other people who has that same car, and he calls them hard parkers, because Elliot, my husband, takes his car out to the tracks. It's a Porsche, but he still takes it on the track. Yeah. And then, but the other people who own Porsches parks them, in their garage and just take photos of them. So that's kind of like what you're saying. Right. You're like, if you have a really good thing, you gotta use it. And I totally agree.
I actually have a good friend who has a Jeep Wrangler, and she's got a stick shift in it, and she will actively, like, if she sees a Jeep Wrangler, and she in the parking lot, she will walk up to it, look in the window, and see if it's a stick or an automatic. And if it's not a stick, she's like, it's like oh, right.
The disdain, like, oh, you're not using it.
Yeah. And that I think that concept is something, Joe, that you posted about. Was it kind of around the holidays when you were talking about that? And I think, as April and I record our happy hours and stuff, like, of course, a lot of what we talk about is like, oh, look at the new shiny thing, which is like really fun, but it's also good to take a step back and be like, well, how can I actually incorporate that into my lineup? And like, because I feel the same way. I want to make sure my pens get used, and because they're beautiful and
that's why you
deserve all the love.
I love that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I still haven't actually destashed those, but they're like set aside,
ready to be rehomed.
Ready to be destashed. Yeah.
Well, I like to destash stuff too by using it, in the sense that, like, if I find that I've got like too much of something, I'll just pick one thing and then use it for a month until it's gone. And it kind of gets me out of the hoarding mode.
No, absolutely. Especially with you being a reviewer, you must have had like a lot of different kind of things, and some of them probably don't stick, right? Like you probably was
It,
like, ah, not that good. Then what do you do with those?
it
Like, yeah.
they don't stick, and they're and you just accumulate too much stuff too fast. So even if you are using it, you're never going to use all of it. And
Yeah.
a lot of it, sometimes it's either blog giveaways, I'll give it to friends, I'll give it to coworkers.
Mm.
Some of it, like if I need to pay bills for hosting and stuff, I will do sales and
Mm,
sell stuff. Especially if it's stuff that I've paid for myself,
yeah.
I'll try to get some of my money back just to keep this thing as not as a I won't call it cash positive, I'll call it cash neutral enterprise.
Yes.
Meaning that if I just not
Yeah.
digging myself into a hole.
No,
But
yeah.
it's so mainly just try to pass it on in a way that where it's going to get used. I mean, a lot of people I've donated, especially pencils. You can
Mhm.
donate pencils and notebooks to schools
Mm,
locally. There's
Yeah, totally.
a lot of programs locally that allow you to do that, and that's a great way. I mean, I think I took we work with an elementary school system at our work, and we collect school supplies every year. And so I've always
Oh,
just dump
nice.
a bunch of stuff in the box and pass it on. And
that's awesome.
that's a great way to destash stuff.
One of a friend in our community, she's a teacher, and she started an elementary school teacher, and she started a journaling club with her kids at school. And so
That's
what ended up
cute.
happening is like a bunch of us are destashing the stickers and the tapes and the things that we no longer use. And so these kids get like boxes and boxes of like old planners, pens, stickers, stamps, and
There's that premium stuff.
the premium stuff. It's funny, like, oh, these stickers are from Japan. Like, these are not what you'll find at Walmart, but like, it's really,
Right.
I think it was kind of funny, and then just kind of like also sobering, like, oh my goodness, we did have to destash so much stuff, but at least it's going to a fun place where the next generation starts getting enabled
Yes.
by really cute stickers. So
Well, and now I have a second grader too. So I'll come home and my pencils, especially my pencils have been, I'll find my pencils have been rated, and
does she
the
bring
pencils will go to
her friends
school.
over, like, daddy's chest of goodies?
Daddy's double filing cabinet stuffed to the gills with ink and pencils
Yes.
behind me here.
I love it. Yeah, that's useful to have a kid, and then you can host like stationery theme party for
Mhm.
their kid,
Yeah.
for their friends. That would be so cool.
Well, and people too. I mean, I'm always surprised that people who you never would think would be into this sort of thing are like, "Oh my God, where did you get that? That's so cool." And I'm like, "Oh, you like it? And here, have 4 dozen. Take them." And then they walk away scared. But
Like, oh my God.
I know our kind of people are like over friendly and over giving, and it's sometimes when I think that's weird, real like friends who are not into this hobby
yeah,
tries to dip their toe into it, like tries to ask what we're using, and then we just end up like, hey, try this fountain pen and
try
this
this
set of
stuff.
ink with this paper, and why don't I order you a cover for that? So
That's literally my friend Morgan, who's like, she always prefaces by saying, Kelly, don't freak out, but I want a planner. And then I go, and I'm like trying not to totally be like, ah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Moving on to the topic of stuff that you've been reviewing, can you share
Sure.
with us like maybe like 3 things that are like really interesting that you got to review like this year?
Recently, let me
Yeah,
see. Well,
recently.
I've got Drillog. I
Oh yeah.
posted recently about Drillog. I did not have a great experience with my 0.5 millimeter Drillog, but they were very gracious and sent me a 0.8 to try.
Was
And
it from the
I'm really
Kickstarter?
liking the 0.8. Yeah, it was a Kickstarter one.
Mm,
Okay.
I did not get one of the review units up front, and it was one of those where I wanted to. This was actually one where I wanted to back the Kickstarter and actually review what everybody else got, as opposed to reach out to get the promotional
right.
um,
Yeah.
copy. And I'm glad I did, because it's a really cool product, and I like it, and I love what they've done here. I've just heard a lot of mixed experiences with
We got to
with the
try it at the pen
actual
show.
reward.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing was that April showed me is that she literally had to hold the pen like this in order for it to work. And so are you saying the 0.8 is like you
The
can
0.8
actually
is much, you can actually use it for, I think part of it too, maybe just the difference in English and Japanese writing and how the letters
yeah.
are formed. But the
Oh, that
0.8
makes a lot of
millimeter, the
sense.
0.8 millimeter works much better for my style of writing. But I've also heard that some people have had really, really good 0.5 millimeter dip nibs. And
Okay.
I don't know, the 0.5, there's probably less room for, I'm speculating here, but there's probably less room for error on it. And it's a really complicated piece of machining. And
Yeah, for sure.
They've just got some kinks to iron out.
That drill mechanism, right? And then having like the tip to be like super precise. And I think you made a really great observation here. If I think about kanji or like the way you write katakana, it's like it's composed of strokes as opposed to English where things are typically connected, and so the reservoir of ink needs to be very continuous for English writing, whereas Japanese writing you can like just have like short strokes put together, you know,
and it's not as big of a deal to rotate the
exactly.
in English. It's harder, like if you're writing, especially in cursive or connecting your writing, and you have to rotate the dip nib to get a new channel to keep it writing continuously, it can make it a little bit more disjointed. But I'm still playing around with it. I'm probably going to do another review of the 0.8 because
have you tried the Kakimori one that everyone else is talking about recently?
Oh yeah.
We haven't tried it.
Yesterday I ordered 2 brass nibs, and I'll send you guys one if you want to try it out, because I ordered 2 figuring that somebody was gonna need one, because they were sold out of everything else.
I know, I missed out on it twice.
That's
But I have one on the way, and I'm really excited to try it. We had our pen club meeting earlier today, and somebody had one, and it looks like, and they love it. I mean, so it should be a really, really cool product. That's one of the things I'm most excited to get my hands on. Other things that I've been working on besides Drillog, let's see what I've got around.
You're looking at your like the
around
table
the
with the stash. Love it.
I'm still working on my plotter review.
Nice.
I'm waiting to order my A5 because I want to do a comparison of the narrow and the A5 together.
Yeah, because you got to try the narrow set, and that's a very different writing experience versus the regular.
It's very tiny.
I use mine for finance tracking, so it's like it doesn't require too much long writing.
So I've been the one thing I've been playing around with lately is brought my multi-pens out again. I'm a big multi-pen fan. I'm a Toledo.
That was my gateway drug.
I'm the uni style fit.
I got a style fit.
I'm the style fit girl.
And I've got this Tombow one, which is
I've heard of those.
It's I'm gonna see what the name of it is. I can't remember what the name of the model is, but it's got like a Jetstream style D1 refill in 2 colors and a mechanical pencil, which is a really good. That's like my ballpoint that I carry.
Nice.
And so I've got this, superior labor thing that I've got.
Is it the olive one?
Yeah, it's the olive one, and it's like stuffed with multi-pens and a couple fountain pens, and that's
parallel pens.
Yep, from Pen Club, because we were doing ink samples.
Nice. Oh, that's so fun.
Got that.
That's what I love about pen clubs. Like if you go in person, and then people usually fill out their pens with like interesting inks, and you just get to like try them in person. Like the whole, for the more high end pens, it might feel a little bit more like reserved about passing it around. But like that's why you bring the parallel pens, the Kakunos, the Metropolitans.
Well, and the parallels are great for crazy inks. Like people always want to see like what crazy inks are you reviewing. So I'll eyedropper a bunch of parallels and bring those and have people can just take samples with the parallel pen and the notebooks.
Love it. Yeah.
Nice. That's so much fun.
I know that I saw your review of I think another pen case, or maybe it's like a holder. I forgot what the name is already.
Is it Lockbee?
Yeah, Lockbee.
Yeah,
That one looked
you
really
gotta-
cool. Yeah.
And Lockbee's cool because it's wax canvas. Like I've had a lot of people ask me, for the store, do you have anything? Do you know of any pen cases or pen rolls that aren't leather? Especially since Notco is no longer making making cases, and Lockbee is a very good company. They use wax canvas. It's it's vegan friendly, and
I like the big buckle they had.
And it's great. The buckle, it's a buckle with a strap, so you can tighten it too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's adjustable, and I've really been happy with it. But this is I brought this to Pen Club today too, but this is my fountain pen roll.
Yes, that's the one I saw.
Nice.
Yes. It looks really cool with all the the holders and the bands and all
Well,
that.
and the best thing about this is you got the pens in the slot, but they also have pockets behind them, so you can stuff even more stuff. Like if you wanted to stuff your ballpoints and your gel pens and stuff behind your fountain pens, you can really load this thing up.
Nice.
Love it. What brand is Lockbee? Is it like a European brand?
No, it's American.
It's American brand?
It's a guy out of Florida, I think.
Oh wow, nice.
He's located in Florida. He's been around for a while. I want to say that they changed their name about a year ago. They used to be Bond cases or Bond Stationery.
Okay.
Was their brand name, and then he rebranded the company when he started working with the wax canvas stuff, I believe. And then they kind of refined what they were doing and had this relaunch, which has been really successful. I mean, I think they've done well, and I've heard good things. And so far, the products that I've been testing have been really nice. I've enjoyed them.
That's so fun. I love it. I'm curious, how did you go about finding new items? I usually use, because we mostly review Japanese stationery and the cutesy kind. So I have a few brands that I just follow their Instagram, and then whenever they come out with new stuff, I'll see it. But for me, it's always so interesting to see you guys talk about all these cool American brands that are popping up here and there. So I'm curious, how do your sources come about, and what is that kind of news change between each other for those kind of things?
Well, recently, I mean, originally it used to be, that's why I would go to pen shows. That's where I would get all my ideas. So for the first 4 years, the blog's been around for going on 8 years. So for the first 4 years, I would go to a bunch of pen shows and buy a bunch of stuff, or have people give me a bunch of stuff. And that would be the stuff that I'd review until I could go to the next show. And sometimes, I'd order stuff online, or people would send me stuff, but the new stuff would always be announced at the show. And so that would be my main source of information, and podcasts and stuff like that. But I would say that in the past 4 years, it's been more, community based. People, Reddit fountain pens is a endless source of entertainment, and all kinds of crazy stuff going on there. Instagram, I'm not on Twitter a lot. I'm not a big YouTuber either, but anything that's kind of forum based, or podcast based. And also, I just have a lot of people starting to reach out to me through the blog.
They're hey Joe, take a look at this. Have you seen this?
Yeah, have you seen this? And I've got my own Patreon. And we have, one of the things that we do is we have a Zoom call once a month, where we just do a big online pen
meetup.
Nice. And I would say 75% of those calls are screen sharing. Have you guys seen this? Look what I just found. It's just complete enabling.
I love it.
So I would say that for the past 6 months, that's been probably the biggest source of information. People, I don't know where people find this stuff. I don't a lot of it's not my own original legwork. It's people bringing stuff to my attention. I wish I could claim credit for it, but they're finding all these. Who's the guy in
I want to join the meetup.
There's a guy. I want to have guests too, and start bringing people. So if you guys ever want to join, let me know. But
that would be fun. Yeah.
I mean, somebody found this guy, and I've heard of him before, but it's a guy in Taiwan who makes and sells these handmade fountain pens from all sorts of crazy materials, like these different micarta patterns and all this. And I don't know how they stumbled across this guy's website, but now he's apparently a big thing recently.
I think I know who you're talking about because I've
and
seen it, but I can't recall the name
it's
right
Mr. something. I can't.
Not
I
Mr.
can't remember.
Eggplant.
now. No,
It's what's his name? He's taking off, and there's all these different, ink websites and ink manufacturers like Wear and Goal is now really popular. They're Amazon only.
Which is so weird. Like you would think that's like kind of like a weird knockoff brand if it's on Amazon, but then turns out that was their only retail stores. It was so sketch at first, but now people saw their swatches, and I'm like, I want to try Wear and Go ink.
Well, and somebody told me today that they've now contracted with Amazon to have warehouse space in the States, so you can get prime delivery on Wear and Go ink now.
Whoa. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's literally the only reason why I haven't talked about them on the podcast or like really been interested is because it was Amazon only, and I'm like,
we used to be don't buy stationery from Amazon because you don't know if it's like secondhand or like inferior or anything. But it does seem to be, I guess, one of the more accessible ways for people who doesn't want to set up Shopify or anything.
Well, and it used to be too, though, that was the way you could get products direct from Japan. Like I would say probably back in like 2014, 2015, before you had a lot of the Japanese stores would sell direct to the United States.
Yeah.
It was hard to get, if you didn't read Japanese, it was hard to get an order placed.
Yeah.
But you could always order direct through Amazon or eBay. And now it's actually gotten harder to do that. Now you almost have to order direct or through the distributors.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tag Stationery, Bungu Box, all those places. But I feel like the ecosystem is getting more complex because it used to be very like simple, but then it also opens up a lot of cool opportunity because you feel like I can have access. I'm recalling like back in the day, Kelly, like 2016 or something, or even 2015, when people were like intimidated to shop on Hobonichi. They're like, how do I even order my cousin? How do I even order my Hobonichi? Like, what is that shopping process? And now we're just savvy, we're just like, oh yeah, just put your credit card in there. That's it.
Yeah.
Pay a lot for shipping, but it's worth it.
Just place a big order.
Yeah.
And the shipping's just a very small part of it.
We've been doing group orders, and then there was that one year we got dinged by custom because our order's too big. So then it's like, okay, I gotta cut it down again. Nice. Well, I think it's about time for Kelly to kind of do the lightning round before we kind of like
the lightning round.
Sure.
Okay, and this is just like the first thing that comes to your mind because I understand these questions are very close to the heart. Okay, so first, what's your favorite color of ink to write with?
Dark green.
Dark green.
Ooh. I would say the same about myself.
Really, Kelly?
Yeah, I've got my Bugukan Kobayashi. She's like a green tea in this guy right now.
I think this is I've got Bungu Box Dandyism in this, which is
nice.
a green black sailor ink.
That's one of April's. Yeah.
I need to follow my pen with a dark green, and it's actually Sailor, so a Kobe ink,
which is also
the Shorazen green tea one in my.
I love that pen.
I don't know if I'm saying correctly. It's one of the green tea. Yeah, in my Program Mini from Bungu Box. Wait, no, not from Bungu Box. This is from.
That's from Kobayashi Bungukan.
Kobayashi Bungukan.
Or Bungukan Kobayashi.
There's Shizuoka strawberry, but it has like a green finial, like the tip of the strawberry, but I put a really dark green ink in it too. That's funny. We were like the same.
Yeah.
Dark green is like the great color for, it's work friendly, but it's still interesting. And something about like dark green and I've gotten into grays a lot lately too.
Nice.
Like gray blues.
For me, it's like the work one that I sneak into is actually like the Tinteria's chipotle, that kind of like brown,
Mhm.
reddish, but kind of very close to dark
Yeah.
colors. I've been
I,
enjoying
I don't
using
have
that.
I don't have that one. I've got the I bought warm tortillas in
Oh yeah, the
Chicago. I have the
tortillas.
other one. I have the tortilla sink.
Nice.
So I was also going to ask your favorite paper to write on, but you said it was the French rolled paper.
That is my favorite. That's my favorite paper to use. I would say, just
Oh,
because it's practical. I'd say that my favorite paper to write on right now, just for all purposes, is actually write notepads out of Baltimore. I don't know
really?
if you guys have used these.
I've heard of them.
It's a small company out of Baltimore, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
I mean, it's not a great paper for showing off ink colors, but it's super absorbent, but it
Mm,
doesn't bleed and it doesn't feather. So it dries really fast. So for
right.
work and just for general everyday writing, it's probably my favorite all around workaday
The
paper.
spiral bound one or the hardcover bound ones? I'm looking at their site right now.
They have hardcover spiral pads. They have reporters notebooks.
Well,
They have planners, like undated planners. They have all kinds of formats. I mean, I use the spirals, but I also use the tear off pads too at work.
Okay,
well,
I'm
that's
looking.
going to be something I have to look
Me
into.
too. I'm like looking at it right now. Instant.
Okay, and then this one, here we go. Rough estimate of how many ink bottles you own.
Let me think about this because I just did a huge ink sale and sold off about half my
Oh,
accumulation last
Wow.
year. I
nice.
would say right now I probably have about 50. I would
50.
say
Okay.
I've really cut. I mean, I've really scaled it back. I would say probably full bottles. I'll go back. No, actually, 75. I would say probably about 75. 75 or less.
Oh, okay.
Hey Kelly,
Because
you
to be
probably are
fair,
close to that number too. I don't know, but I feel
I
like
think I'm probably close to that number. I'm probably closer to 50. Well, for full bottles, because I have a lot of little tiny, diamine ink vent,
we don't
yada
count
yada.
those.
if you don't count if you
Yeah,
don't
those don't
count
count.
those, I'm at like 40 or 50. But I just remember that I've got some ink sets like where like the Colorverse set that came in the
Oh
case. Just all
yeah,
the
Oh yeah, with the
little
little
tiny
ones.
little
Yeah.
tiny bottles,
yeah.
and then the
They're practically samples, 5
I have
milliliter.
I have the diamine composer and the diamine flower sets
Oh, you
too. So which are
have
all the
those. Oh,
little
those are
the
really
little
cool.
the little bottles. So those, I guess those, if you count those, it's around 75. But if you don't count those, it's around 40 or 50.
Love it. And the next one, Kelly.
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
I'm
So the
curious.
next one would be rough estimate of how many pens you own.
Fountain
What's
pens.
harder,
Fountain pens, yeah.
fountain pens. I would put it at about 100. I'd say.
For some
I,
reason, I was expecting more.
I
That's still a
don't.
lot. That's a lot.
It's a lot, and I would say that I divide that up a little bit. I would say that in pens that I actually write with, that I would consider part of my personal collection, I would say I've probably got about 36 to 40
Writers. Yeah.
writers. Because I do the blog, I keep a lot more pens on hand for reference purposes. And I mean, I bring them out and fill them and write with them, but I keep a lot of stuff for comparison purposes. I do have, to be able to talk about the different brands, I like to have, one example of the major brands and their major offerings on hand. So
Which is your favorite brand of fountain pen?
This is hard. It changes. It changes a lot. I
Top
would
two
say
then. Top two.
top two. I would have to say probably Twisby would be one of the top two, just because
Oh, wow.
I really admire what they've been able to do at their price point. To kind of in their niche. I think they're really, really good at what they do.
Yeah.
After that, I would say Lamy, probably.
Lamy.
Okay.
Lamy's always been a favorite of mine.
Are you getting the strawberry and cream set?
I don't know yet. I still haven't bought the Safari and the Savannah or the
Oh, in the
Savannah.
not even that one.
Savannah, I haven't bought those yet. I've got so many Safaris. I had to kind of cut myself off.
Yeah.
But I was just picking them up here and there, and
Yeah.
there's really only one or two Safaris in my accumulation of them that I really use all the time. So I kind of cut myself off. But I do like the strawberries and cream. They look really good.
We're the same way with the Twist Me now. Like my friend Sarah, she's just been like every color that comes out, she's like, okay, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And now she has like a rainbow set because like, oh, now I need one to match my ink. And because she recently got those new Monarca inks from Mexico. And so she's like,
she got those. Nice.
I've got those too. I've got a set of those. I'm going to be reviewing.
Are they really
in the next
good?
couple weeks. They're really good.
Have you tried
the colors
them?
are great.
Oh,
I've tried them with the drill log. I've not tried them in a fountain pen yet. So I'm gonna work them into some pens tomorrow probably, and then use them this coming week.
I look forward to your review. I'm
they're
still
really
deciding
well
which
done.
color I want, so I'm like just reading all the reviews right now.
but the packaging and the presentation and the way the brand is put together, it's so well done. The wooden stand, it's so well done.
Well, you're making me need that.
Yeah, Kelly, did you not hop on to Amarillo Stationery's like sale? Like I think we totally, I just glossed over it. Sorry, Eric.
Are you saying was it on the Discord? Because you know how I am about that Discord. I'm so bad at checking it out.
It was just hyped up when he was launching the sale. He had like a little pre-sale.
Oh, that's what. Oh, yeah.
But I think you can still get it elsewhere now, though. But like, just at a little bit of a higher price, I think.
Is this Monarca?
Yeah, Monarca.
Is that being sold at retail yet, or is he just still selling through Etsy?
I think he has a shop now. So Eric Gama opened up Amarillo Stationery, and he just opened the shop, I think, earlier this week. Like I think Wednesday was the launch date, and so it was priced, I think, the cheapest I've seen everywhere else. I did see them at one other store, but I forgot right now which one, an online shop, but that was like about $5 more or something like that. So that's what I know of. Nice. Okay, and then
I just have one.
This is the weird question.
It is kind of weird.
What do they call it? The Toy Pens had this question, and when we had them on.
Oh yeah, it's called a
hypothetical.
Oh my god, a hypothetical. Yes, that's the word. Okay, so
I'm a lawyer. I love hypotheticals.
It's a would you rather. Would you rather have only one pen of your choosing for the rest of your life, but be able to write in any notebook you want, or only have Moleskine notebooks available to write in, but choose any pen?
Not shaming Moleskine, but just like we only have one notebook to write with, but like
I'm totally shading Moleskine.
I would take the one pen and choose the notebooks, just because I can't enjoy a bad notebook with a good pen.
I know. Yeah,
but
I feel the same way.
I can have a bad pen and enjoy a good notebook still.
That's right.
And you can choose any pen.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's true.
I would choose the same one as Joe, because I just cannot stand any feathering happening as I write. So, like, if I was stuck with one of those skins, like, I don't know if they ever come up with notebooks that are better. Maybe they have certain lines that are better, but so far,
maybe
the ones that I use with is just
maybe
not.
I've heard the same question asked with ink. So, would you rather have one pen for the rest of your life and have access to any ink you could possibly choose, or would you rather have a bottle of black ink? And it can't even be a good black ink. It's just a bottle of black ink, and any pen you want. And that's how supposedly that's how when the question was asked, supposedly that's how you're able to tell whether you're in this hobby because you're an ink person or whether you're in this hobby because you're a pen person.
I'm an ink person.
Oh yeah. I'm such a sucker for a good ink.
So, yeah. And plus it's easy to choose a really nice pen. I mean, I guess if you have the choices to like not a good pen, but well, that's not happening in our world, so thank God.
Yeah. Oh man.
Nice. And well, finally, last question. Thank you for sharing all this. We would love to hear your recommendations. What are your recent favorite blogs to read from, for those
Okay.
who wants to delve deeper into this kind of like more fountain pen world, or what are some podcasts that you recommend?
Well, in terms of podcasts, I have been listening to, I've always listened to The Pen Addict.
You said you listened when they like just started too, which is
I
amazing. Because
I've listened to like 500 episodes of The Pen Addict. The
That
nib
is
section,
amazing.
the nib section podcast from Fountain Pens Australia and Fountain Pens Oceania
Mm.
is amazing. They've been on hiatus for a while, but that is a great podcast as well. Trying to think, I've taken a little bit of a break from podcasts because I was listening to a lot of podcasts for a while, but I'm going to see let me open up my.
Has there been any that like starts talking a little bit more about paper than the pen, or has it always just been the pen? You feel like that has been like the main topic? That's why I'm wondering.
It's really been, well, Tokyo Inklings does a lot more paper
That's
than
true. Yeah, you're
than
right.
most stationery podcasts. So they've kind of been, actually going back to what we were talking about earlier, they've actually been a really big source of new stuff and news for me to explore. I mean, that's been a really enjoyable podcast to listen to this year. And I think that if you're interested in really specifically Japanese stationery, that is your best source of information on a podcast.
Yeah.
Especially with fountain pens, if fountain pens are what you're interested in. But they do some paper, a lot of paperwork.
Fude fan loves reviewing paper. So each time something new in the paper world. But then like it's also like, do they focus too much on like
it's really in depth. It's really, really in depth.
It's like paper for the ink sommelier, like the ink, like people who really enjoys ink. There's not like from you just recommend the right notebook, and I feel like that's kind of for like the everyday writer type of paper. So I wonder if there's any podcast in the US that does that. I would love to listen to like more kind of like
there are definitely some otakus over at Tokyo Inklings.
Like
I say that lovingly.
Sorry, CY and Jacob. But like stories about Baron Fig, stories about Write Notebook. I think there was another notebook brand, but I guess Panatic would have been to be the one that talks about some of those.
Yeah, and they did, and there used to be the FP Geeks podcast, which was more of a community focused podcast. There was one of the early ones. I think it was even pre-Pen Addict, but it seems like a lot of there's room in the stationery podcast space for more voices, and I think people should be more active in putting together podcasts. It's a lot of work, but I say that not wanting to be the person to actually put in the work at the time.
But like someone else, give us more content, please. No, I'm the same way. I feel the same. Like I want more people to talk about stationery so I can listen to them, because I just cycle through my usuals. Like I listen to the Erasable podcast. I listen to the Pen Addict, Tokyo Inklings, and used to listen to Nib Section before they went on break. I think another one I listened to is the Art Supply Posse. Is that the right name? Because I'm into art supplies too. But yeah.
I was talking to one of my newer coworkers today, and because she didn't know I had a podcast, I was like, I have, we just talk about this. We talk about this shit all day, like gesturing to the store, and then I'm like, wow, it's just literally my life. Like I go to work, I talk about it, I come home and I talk about it. I like bug all my friends about it. Like it's just very addicting.
Where do you plan to take your gentleman stationery? I know you have meetups and you do sell, like you have a website that sells stationery you recommend, and any thoughts about expanding in the future?
I mean, I would love to, my dream would be to open a stationery store in my hometown, but I'm not sure how much of a realistic dream that would be currently, given life.
The pandemic, retail prices.
And where is your hometown?
Nashville. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, or about 25
minutes south
of Nashville. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
which is a fun
Yeah.
town. Which is a fun town, but we are
Yeah, I've heard.
currently undergoing a huge real estate boom right now, which makes it a little bit hard to
Oh.
find any sort of retail space that would be reasonable and stuff. But
Oh,
someday
okay.
I would love to have a store, and that
Would
would be
it have
that'd
like
be
a
Yeah.
bar section, where
oh,
people can
no.
have a drink and
Oh,
like talk about
cute.
that'd be really
The combination stationery store, bookstore, coffee shop, bar is a
Ooh.
good
Yeah.
concept with
Yes.
meeting space, free meeting space. Just let people come
Yeah.
and use your free meeting space just to get them in the door.
and the conversations,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
like I feel like that's what we
I
all
love
learn, right, through the
that.
station community. Is just
Yeah.
that there are people who can be really into it, and the conversations leads to them becoming your good friends. So
Mhm.
that's why I always think that, yeah, if a stationery store has like a little space for people to linger a little longer or to like talk, have a drink or something, it would be
Yeah.
ideal. And I want that in every city in the United States. I feel like that's a niche that's growing.
Yes.
Don't you feel that it's growing, the stationery
Yeah.
industry? At least these
For
more,
sure.
not like gift giving, but more like actually using it. So I feel like
Yeah.
it should be a trend.
Well, it's the stationery stores that feel the best. Stationery stores are the ones that feel more like libraries or bookstores that kind
Hmm.
of invite you in to come in and stay and browse, as opposed to just the kind of
The office
drug
supply type.
office supply, your traditional office supply
Yeah.
store.
That would be so cool. Well, we look forward to that one day because I wanna visit
Yes.
Nashville and be able to go into the gentleman stationer.
I would love to go there.
We'll see. I'm just to answer your question. I'm going to try to expand the site this year to include more informational,
Mm.
say more information, but organized in a more accessible way. So I've got,
Mm.
8 years worth of content. One of the things I did this year was I pulled all my fountain pen reviews into an index. So you can now
Oh,
go
I
and
just saw
navigate
that
it by
too.
brand. And I'm
Yeah.
going to hopefully at some point, if I ever get the time, I'm going to do that for ink and I'm going to do that for paper and try to
That's
just,
so good. That's such a great
Yeah.
resource, as
just pull
opposed
it,
to searching for it. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
because the search, I mean, I'm sorry, I like Squarespace as a host, but the search function on Squarespace is terrible. And, it
Oh.
doesn't search all of the content. I mean, I think it works fine for smaller websites, but once you get, multiple years worth of material, it's really hard to navigate. So I'm trying to pull all that stuff together in a
Nice.
way that that makes it easier especially for new people coming in, to be
Yeah.
able to have somewhere to go to just kind of browse in a way
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I love the part on your website where like accumulate the list, the best inks, best
Mhm.
paper, best pen. So I think that's also a great
Hmm.
way for people to get started because like you said, your blog has so many reviews. How do I even start
Yeah.
browsing? And I just love these kind of list type I think content pages where you can just start to like, start with a few articles and then go deeper from there. I love it.
Well, and hopefully that's my goal for this year, is just to kind of build that out and to make sure that all is better organized. And I'll be bringing some more stuff into my own shop. I mean, I like to be able to give people a good experience. Like if I recommend something, I like to be able to, not have to worry about, well, who do I send it to? Am I sending people to a place where they're going to have a bad experience? If it's something that's hard to
Hmm.
find,
You can control
it,
it yourself. Yeah.
can control the experience. But I'm also friends with a lot of retailers, and there are certain things that I'm never gonna sell myself, because there's already people out there that do it very, very well.
Do a good
And
job of it.
there's other things that I would like to be spending my time on. But it's the site's going to continue to grow. I'm going to continue to run it, and I'm looking forward to this year. I think I'm going to try to keep growing.
Love it.
Nice. I love that too. I have actually, I know we lied. There's one final question.
No worries.
Are you going to go to the San Francisco Pen Show this year?
I will. As of now, I will be in San Francisco. I'm going to do for shows this year. I think I'm going to do Baltimore at the beginning of March. I'll be in Atlanta. I will probably be in DC, and then I'm definitely going to be in San Francisco. If unless something comes up
Nice.
at work where I can't travel, I will absolutely be in San Francisco, because I think San Francisco and Baltimore are two of the best pen shows
Nice.
For kind of the community aspect of show going. I think those shows have a really good balance between, you know, being able to browse and shop and having after hours events and a lot of informational and educational seminars and stuff too.
Well, but yeah, I'm sad to miss Atlanta, though. I had planned to go, but my trip to Taiwan has been moved forward a little bit, so I have to like give up on it.
In a perfect world, if everything kind of goes back to normal, whatever that may be, or whatever that's going to look like, I would love to go to TIPS in November, which is the Tokyo International Show.
We would all love to go.
I don't know if that has any chance of actually happening this year, but at some point I'm going to make it over there.
Yeah, who knows? They have recently just announced they shortened it to 3 days quarantine for business travelers. So yeah, but and that's like recently. So who knows what's going to happen towards the end of the year? Their theme this year is I kind of had like a bar looking thing with the penguins kind of like drinking some whiskey, you know, by the bar. I just thought that was so cute. Anyway, thank you so much, Joe, for coming onto the show. You guys can find him on Instagram as Gentleman Stationer, and your website is also gentlemanstationer.com. And that's where
just all one word, just Gentleman Stationer on Instagram and gentlemanstationer.com.
Exactly. And that's where you can find like his recent reviews. I feel like you update super frequently, so that's always a really fun place to get new information, like, you know, new content to consume all the time. And yeah, we'll really look forward to your growth and then potentially seeing you in person later this year.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, have a good night. Bye, Kelly.
Bye,
Joe.
Bye.
Bye.